West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill
6
Show.
a.m. in the Mile High
News
City
Talk
on this
710
Thursday, July
KNUS.
3rd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Breaking news this morning, Politico, Mike Johnson, not Johnston, that's the mayor of Denver, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, on the cusp of a mega bill victory.
Yeah, it looks like this thing's going to get over the line.
House Republicans pulled an all-nighter
questions.
to advance the mega bill and are set to vote on final passage this morning. Speaker Mike Johnson is potentially just a couple hours away from sending Donald Trump his big, beautiful bill, defying expectations about whether he could meet the president's unwavering July 4th deadline after it appeared to be derailed late Wednesday by hard right holdouts. And by the way, I was texting our friends in Congress going, hey, anybody want to come on the show and talk about it? And they're all like,
Yeah, no.
we don't know yet.
Yeah,
We're
they
not
don't.
sure what this thing's going to look like. Stand by, El Jefe. And so it's like, sure, woke up this morning. Looks like it's going to come through. And we have requests out there to both Jeff Crank and Lauren Boebert to see if they could join us, give us an update. But after it appeared late Wednesday night, it might be derailed. Republicans advanced the bill around 3:30 a.m. and were set to vote on final passage as early as 6 a.m. this morning. During the all-nighter, GOP leaders kept the procedural vote open for almost 6 hours as they worked to flip 12 votes. Right now, Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania was the lone Republican to vote no at the end. Things looked dire until around 2 a.m. when Johnson and Majority Leader Steve Scalise returned to the House floor saying they had the votes. Not long after, the Speaker was seen talking, laughing, and what appeared to be praying some of the House Freedom Caucus holdouts. So we'll keep you updated this morning as this comes together. The big, beautiful bill, the mega bill, making its way through the House of Representatives and then likely the president's desk to be signed by that July 4th deadline. Wow, wow, wow. Lots of breaking news. We've also got to cover today this bizarre incident that happened earlier this week where Obama, Bush, and Bono sent messages to USAID staffers. This is kind of wild. We'll give you the latest on that. Plus, big cuts coming to the state of Colorado for Medicaid, K through 12, and then an effort by Michael Fields and others to return the name Mount Blue Sky back to Mount Evans. So, lots of news to cover today. Let's kick it off. We've got news and comment with Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Thursday, 60 and sunny. It is gorgeous outside. Going to be a great day in Denver and up and down the Front Range. Expecting a high of 93 today. News is presented by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That's 800-301-1188. Or go to KNUS. Check that, 710KNUS.com, and click on the big red Stand with Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story.
Well, it's been a long, productive day. We've been talking with members from across the conference and making sure that everyone's concerns are addressed and their questions are answered. And it's been a good day. We're in a good place right now. This is the legislative process. This is exactly how I think the framers intended for it to work.
House Republicans made a late-night breakthrough on DJT's $1 big, beautiful bill. After hours of internal GOP wrangling, the House narrowly passed a key procedural vote, 219 to 213, to move it forward, and the bill now heads to a final vote this morning, just one step away from 47's desk.
We feel very good about where we are, and we're moving forward. So we're going to deliver the big, beautiful bill, the President's America First agenda, and we're going to do right by the American people. This is going to be a great thing for the country. Look forward to moving it forward.
You going to pass it tonight?
A federal judge is dismissing the legal challenge. The Boulder terrorist Mohammed Solomon's wife and 5 children, and will have them deported. The family has been in ICE custody since Solomon attacked and killed one person involved with a pro-Israeli rally in Boulder. Solomon is looking at 118 state charges plus a federal hate crime charge. Solomon's family is now set for expedited removal from the country. 4 people are dead after a mass shooting last night outside a Chicago nightclub. And Sean Diddy Combs will stay in jail until sentencing after he was found guilty of transporting people for prostitution. He was found not guilty of most of the serious charges against him, including racketeering and sex trafficking. But numerous people say this isn't over. Rapper Lil Rod, no fan of Diddy.
Yeah, I doubt if he's going to go totally free. But in the same token, this is not a surprise to me. I mean, we've seen him do just poof, make anything just disappear that happens. You know what I'm saying? But this guy has been, again, he's been allegedly a foreman for over 30 years, and he's gotten away with a lot of things. He's got power. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of money, and he's been doing this. God knows who he knows. If you look at it, the prosecutors had attorneys, but he had 2 attorneys per their 1 attorney. So, for example, they had 5 attorneys, he had 10. You know what I'm saying? And if you look in that courtroom, a lot of the attorneys that he had represented some of the biggest mob gangsters, or, you know what I'm saying, et cetera.
Plenty of experts on Combs say he's an informant, as you just heard, and protected, and find it curious that James Comey's daughter is in charge of all of these sex cases. Journalist Liz Crokin believes that they are all connected, including Epstein.
Now, Blake, interesting analysis in the Wall Street Journal yesterday on Combs's attorneys and their strategy, and how it kind of backfired at the end there. So they made the argument, right, that he lives a wild lifestyle. And they even admitted he's violent, right? They didn't try to tell the jurors, don't believe what your eyes are seeing, because there's plenty of video of him beating up his girlfriend. So the judge in the sentencing goes, we're going to keep him in jail. You just admitted he's violent.
Right.
In closing arguments, you go,
wow.
You know what?
Is that what happened?
Yeah. In closing arguments, they go, we know he's violent. We know he lives a rough lifestyle, a disgusting lifestyle. But it's not an organized criminal effort.
Yeah, in the closing arguments, they tried to say this is, while this is offensive and you don't like seeing the videos, this is domestic violence. However, he's not charged here in this court case with domestic violence.
Correct.
So you can't cross-apply a domestic violence issue into this criminal conspiracy case.
And then when the judge has to figure out whether or not to keep him in jail, part of the equation is the criminal violent? And they're going, you just said it in the closing arguments. You admitted he is, so we're going to keep him in prison for a minute.
And I saw an analysis yesterday that was really interesting from someone that had spent the better part of nearly 3 decades testifying as an expert and working in the realm of trafficking, specifically human trafficking and sex trafficking. And they had a really, really interesting take that I didn't hear anywhere else. And what they said is the prosecution messed up big time because they did not call a sex trafficking or human trafficking expert to the stand. And the analyst kind of delved into that a little bit and said what they needed to do. And they said the reason that you do this is because it can be a complex issue and you need someone that is viewed as an expert to the jury to explain it in layman's language. They need to say, here are the behaviors you are seeing by the defendant that show this is a sex trafficking issue. Here are the behaviors that you will see exhibited by people in this situation. Here are the behaviors you see exhibited by the people that are victims of this. Here's the power structure involved, and here's why it happens. And the analyst said there is a possibility that you could make this with Puff Daddy and what he was doing, but there were some other issues involved where it would make it more difficult to lay the case. And he came to the conclusion that the prosecution didn't think they could get an expert on the stand that could make their case for them. They felt that they were stretching a little bit and it would be difficult to get that expert. He did say, however, that it was interesting the defense also didn't bring that sex trafficking or human trafficking expert because he said, he goes, like, in his position, it would be easy for an analysis to come in and just say, well, you know what, this isn't trafficking because it doesn't exhibit A, B, or C. And so he just thought that was a misstep, possibly more by the prosecution than by the defense. And he said if the prosecution brings it in, then the defense has to counteract any of those statements. But he found it very interesting that in a case of racketeering, where you're talking about sex and human trafficking, the one thing the prosecution doesn't present is an expert witness about exactly that. They had a psychologist that talked about the dynamics of the relationship, but not an expert in what they were accusing Puff Daddy of doing. And the analyst said that's a huge mistake by the prosecution, or an insight that the prosecution didn't think they had the strongest case. They didn't think they could really get there with an expert. I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't seen that anywhere else.
Absolutely. Or did they want to? I mean, I'm going to play some interviews later in the show that now it's taken me a whole different direction. I mean, they may have him where they want him as an informant. And there's so much dirt involved in this and so much corruption within this case. I don't believe anything anymore, honestly. So, no, that's a fascinating story, and I wouldn't doubt that. And there are about 10 other scenarios that I wouldn't doubt in this thing. So we're going to hear from a journalist and also this little Rod who we just heard from. I mean, it is fascinating. But you've heard about, I mean, I've heard about Diddy for years being involved in like other stars' deaths, like Heavy D, my favorite rapper of all time. I mean, this is back at, oh yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I
but
did not know that
I started disliking Sean Combs when I heard that he may be involved in Heavy D and the boys. Heavy D, who was killed or there was an accident, or, you know, you hear stories about that. But, man, Sean Combs has been able to skate on a lot of things, but we'll see. A lot of people don't believe it's over yet.
Well, there have always been allegations that he may have been involved in the death of Tupac. There's always been those allegations.
Absolutely.
But allegations, yeah.
Allegations, no doubt. And 3 or 4 others. So there's a lot more to this going on than we probably know or will ever know. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. It is 60 in Centennial, and it is so nice outside right now. 59 in Greenwood Village, 60 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Insiders fighting for insiders. More of Insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. America first. Love the
I had to
flow.
play that because I think Billy was wondering what that was.
Yeah,
I
what is
think I
that?
found it. I'm not. I
Okay.
got to find the name, but I know it's
find the name for me.
insiders fighting for it.
Okay, because I've got someone on the text messages that is dying for
That's what I thought. I just found it, so I had to play it for you.
Oh,
So
perfect. Thank you, my friend.
You bet. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
That's Balake to you.
The deeper monsoon moisture stays just to the west of us today. There'll be some showers and thunderstorms over the mountains and foothills and west of the divide, while sunny and warm east of the divide, highs 90s, low to mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Thursday, but for tomorrow and for Independence Day Friday, better chances of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning. Low to mid-90s Thursday, 4th of July, highs will be mid-80s to near 90. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, we're tracking the big, beautiful bill set to pass today. Republicans seems to be in good spirits. That's what we're reading on Politico. We'll keep you up to date as the vote goes live. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is giving a marathon floor speech, stretching into his third hour now. As Democrats mount a last-ditch effort to stall the passage of Republicans' mega bill. Jeffries started speaking around 4:52 a.m. Eastern Time, which would be 2:52 a.m. our time, and read through stories from voters who could be impacted by the mega bill's cuts to social safety programs like Medicaid. It's not clear when Jeffries plans to end his speech. Democrats lack the votes to ultimately stop passage of the mega bill, making the unlimited speaking time afforded to party leaders the last option for them to prolong passage of the GOP legislation. Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy have set the previous records for the longest House floor speeches, clocking in at over 8 hours. Politico also reporting that House GOP holdouts who wanted a last-minute rewrite President Trump's mega bills never really had a chance. Majority Leader Steve Scalise said in an interview Thursday. For a long time, there were members that really thought there was a chance the bill was going to get opened up again to amendment, said the Louisiana Republican. It became clear from the president's meetings at the White House to further conversations later that for all the back and forth, the bill's closed. There's going to be no more amendments to the bill. And now they're set to vote likely today if Hakeem Jeffries will give them the space. Now, came across this video, Brittany Pedersen, Congresswoman from the 7th Congressional District, I believe, which is the Lakewood area of Denver, so western part of Denver, right up into the mountains there. She's not happy. Bill, can we play the audio of Brittany Pedersen and the big, beautiful bill?
Hi, everybody. I lost my voice. We were forced back here. Took a red-eye flight. Haven't slept. We're here being forced back to vote on this disastrous budget proposal that is going to decimate our rural hospitals, healthcare that millions of families across the United States rely on, and increase costs for all of us for the private insurance market when we have this much uncompensated care. It's hard to hold back the tears with how bad this bill really is, the impact that it will make in Colorado and especially in rural Colorado. So I will keep you updated, but right now we have 2 people who are likely going to vote no. We just need 2 more. Your voices matter, and reaching out and telling your stories makes a difference. So thank you for tuning in, for fighting back, and I will keep you updated.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players, as William Shakespeare said. Brittany Pedersen with the alligator tears upon the big, beautiful bill and its passage today. She had to get on an airplane. Fly back.
Yeah.
So sorry, Brittany. And can I just take a moment and say, Brittany Pedersen has never once in her life cared about rural Colorado.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I don't think that never once in her life. I think that's personally. I just think that's too much of a generalization.
Never once in her life has she ever thought about rural, because she doesn't even know where rural Colorado is.
Again, I think that's a broad generalization. I think I'm not
You
sure that's fair.
can't find it on a map. I'm going to broad generalize her.
Yes, she can.
Heroin Barbie. She thought the best thing for Denver was supervised injection sites.
See, yeah, that's
She's
fair, but I don't think the idea that she couldn't find rural Colorado on the map. Again, I understand why you're saying it, but I would disagree with that. I don't think she's necessarily that obtuse. Just because she lives here, I don't do that. But I do think that this is performative. I think the complaint of the fact that she had to go back and get there at this time falls a lot on deaf ears, because it comes across as if I gotta go to work. I'm sorry, you spend most of the time not working. That's just what Congress does. The majority of time they are not actually doing their job. All of us would love to have a full-time job with their work schedule. It would be fantastic.
And that pay schedule.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then Brittany led the effort for proxy voting. So she wanted to vote from the Ian Silveri yacht in the Mexican.
Yeah, the
Bay.
proxy voting for me is not. Again, I'm not as worried about that again, because I figure you can constrain that a little bit. But I really, really disagree with the idea that I've got to go do my job and do my work that you're voted me in to do. That, to me, complaining about that, shut up. That's the one that really bothers me. The idea of how many times have we heard, we've got to do this in Congress because we're going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. Most of us that are listening to the Jeff and Bill show have 14 days total of paid vacation a year. And they're routinely going on 2-week vacations, and they're supposed to be helping run the country. Sorry. When we talk about those C-suite executives, and I would classify, as far as our government, members of Congress, into that type of a classification, they're supposed to be the ones that are burning the midnight oil. They're the ones that are supposed to be earning that big paycheck because they do all the extra work and they're working 24 hours a day. When I throw rocks at Elon Musk about him and the fact that he's trying to run all these companies and can't spend the time, what do I hear? Elon sleeps on the floor of the office. Okay, but that's the justification, that he spends all this time there. So obviously he's worth this much money. Yet in this case, vacation. Yeah, I got no sympathy for the fact that you had to be called back to do your damn job. And I think the tears about all the people that are going to lose healthcare coverage and other things, education, I think it's real, but I don't think the tears are necessarily that real. I think the losses are real, but I think the emotion isn't necessarily real.
And part of what I love about this is Brittany Pedersen has never had to deal with the word no her entire career. She has been a progressive leader in a state that's gotten more and more progressive. She had wide open doors for her in everything she wanted to do when she was a lawmaker here in Colorado, with the exception of the stupidest idea, which were drug supervised drug injection sites. But for the most part, anything she ever wanted to do, she got passed. Now she gets to be out in the minority. She doesn't have that much power. She has to sit there and watch Republicans push their agenda. Oh, it's beautiful. And to know that Ian Silveri can't do anything either about it, and they're stressed out, and people are asking, where's Baby Sam? He's not in the video. Baby Sam wasn't in this video. Maybe Ian's finally got the message that he needs to do his own job as a father. But, man, after what I've had to sit through, loss after loss after loss down at the Colorado State Capitol, year after year after year, while Heroine Barbie got to push her agenda forward, this is just beautiful. It's just deserved. Those are the tears that I live for. Keep crying, Brittany.
Tell me how you really feel.
It's the last day before a long vacation.
The thing for me is that she's complaining about having to go back to work. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's the majority of us face that time. The idea of someone called in sick or we've got an emergency that happens all the time. And the fact that you're upset about it. Again, what pisses me off the most is because the light work schedule of those in Congress. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, yes, but it's also an incredibly demanding job. And 2 different members of Congress asked me from the state at different times to be their chief of staff. And I just respectfully turned them down because I didn't want to be on an airplane 50 weeks out of the year. I had a family in Colorado. Yes, you're not working all the time, and you get big, long stretches like August where they're not in session. But have your eyes wide open enough to understand what you're signing up for. It's like
how many of us at our job though have a big long stretch of August? I mean, we always yell and scream at teachers and saying, they're not working all summer, and it's a degradation of them. But here for Congress, it's a hard job. I disagree.
But it's a lot of travel, and especially if you're like Jeff Hurd, who has to go from Grand Junction to Denver and then Denver to D.C., and you're doing that every week, it is tough. But part of the complaint I have about Brittany Pedersen, it's like someone signing up for the military and then going, I'm being deployed. I can't believe this. I can't believe that I have to go and fight for my country. I thought I was just, it's like, do you even realize what you were signing up for? So there's so much about this that you could talk about. But Brittany Pedersen clearly shouldn't be in this role. Britt, let's talk here for a second, because you and I have had a conversation before. It was a respectful conversation. I've always appreciated that about you. Me and Ian have our differences, but come on. At this point, do you really like what you're having to do? You got the kids at home, you got the husband, who knows where he is, and getting on an airplane and flying all the time back to Washington, D.C. And this is a job where some nights, you're going to be up all night long while Hakeem Jeffries gives speeches to try to further his political career. It's a crazy place. Do you really want to be spending these years doing that? Go back to Colorado where you get to push your agenda and no one's going to stop you because we're that progressive. Brittany Pedersen. All right. Text messages coming in, and you're welcome to join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Republicans poised to get this bill across the finish line. Brittany Pedersen's in tears, and tomorrow is July 4th. Donald Trump's your president. Lots of Supreme Court victories. Is there a better time to be a conservative? What a beautiful morning. All right, let's talk L&L heating and air conditioning. Our furnace and AC had problems last summer. Went out there and spoke to a number of different companies, and the folks we went with and have been completely thrilled with L&L heating and air conditioning. They're a small mom and pop operation that delivers, gets it done right with quality craftsmanship, and they're easily accessible. You can get a hold of them. These other companies, these big box AC companies, are disasters. Why not go with somebody that's going to pick up the phone, respond to you, and listen to this, no emergency charges and a $0 trip fee. Here's some of the deals that L&L Heating and Air Conditioning has going on right now. A free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. Price match value guarantee on equipment, free estimates, licensed and insured, and a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great. Our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, and reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691, 720-851-1691, online at bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called him. That number again, 720-851-1691. Big, beautiful bill, set to pass. What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Brittany Pedersen in tears, concerned about rural Colorado. She can't find rural Colorado on a map. Am I being too unfair to her? Or is she just crying those tears to generate more videos for you to watch? Text us at the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The big, beautiful Bill on the cusp of passing. Brittany Pedersen is crying. Tomorrow's July 4th. Strings of Supreme Court victories. What a day to be a conservative. Now, Mary from Wyoming texting in, hospitals, and especially the rural hospitals, are upset about Medicaid cuts to illegals because the illegals are paying their bills. The Senate added a work requirement for illegals to remain on Medicaid instead of denying them the benefits. But, Bill, you responded saying that this bill is going to make it more expensive to treat illegals. Explain that.
Because we are going to end up delivering the medical care at the highest possible cost. Because these people, we're not going to deny them medical care. Or if we take them off of Medicaid, we take them off of the insurance program, we're not going to just, when they show up at a hospital or a doctor's office, say, sorry, door's closed. Moose outside should have told you. We're not going to do that. We will treat them. But we do know that what they will do is they'll show up rather than going to the doctor's office and receiving regular care. They're going to show up in the emergency room. And the emergency room is the highest cost services we provide. And when that hospital is probably going to be reimbursed by the government, we reimburse them for the highest possible cost that they delivered inside of the emergency room, not the lower cost we deliver under Medicare and Medicaid. That's the issue. We have just decided as a country to pay the most possible cost for that medical coverage.
Do you think it's fair for taxpayers to be paying for the medical costs of illegal immigrants?
Here's the question.
In either of those situations?
Well, hang on a sec. Unless you're going to argue that we should refuse service to someone that is illegal in this country at a hospital, I'm not going to have the conversation. So we need to start with the question. No, this is because the question is, should we refuse service? That's it. Because you're asking, is it fair? Should we?
I'm asking if taxpayers should. So, like, for instance, if a Catholic hospital wanted to say, we're going to raise money to provide emergency services to illegal immigrants, and if you're Roman Catholic and this is something that you care about, then you're welcome to donate to. I wonder if it's right for the American taxpayer that's already stretched, who works hard for the money that they make, to be the ones paying for the health care of illegal immigrants. I know, Bill, you were taking calls there.
No, the issue is just that...
in my mind, why do taxpayers have to pay for it if people could donate if they wanted to?
But isn't that still the public paying for it one way or another? But the other deal is this. So what do we do as far as people donating? Should the hospitals not treat them when they show up? Or do we have to, when they show up, start a GoFundMe? What's the mechanism for that? Because right now, currently, those charities and those hospitals can make that choice, and some do. So that exists. So what do you do in the other situations? Are we just going to have some hospitals that maybe not be run by charities? Or what is the functional mechanism? If someone is in a car accident and they're illegal, they show up at the emergency room, what do you do?
We have to take them to a certain hospital.
What hospital?
Well, the ones that are providing that type of care based upon charity.
So only charity. So if there isn't one that's close enough, we don't treat them? Or what if that... What if,
I mean,
we just don't treat them.
Because
the
alternative is hardworking people that are going to work right now listening to this show are going to have money taken out of their pockets to provide for the health care of illegal immigrants.
But the illegal immigrant could be working as well. Could be hardworking. Being illegal doesn't necessarily prevent them from working. In fact, we've seen that based on the ICE arrests. So they could be a hardworking person as well.
Well, then they're buying insurance, aren't they?
Not if they're illegal, remember? Because that's the whole issue. They're not buying insurance. Now, they do pay some taxes based on the fact that they have expenditures and rent and stuff, but how would they pay if they're illegal?
So
if they're illegal, how are they paying? How are they getting insurance?
In this country, it's illegal for an employer to provide health insurance for an illegal immigrant. Is that correct?
Here's the idea. The idea being that two different things. One, if the illegal immigrant uses false documents, the employer can provide the health insurance. But if they don't have the documentation, and we've seen that in places like construction, hotels, food service, how do you possibly register them for insurance? You have no documentation for them. So you don't. There's no way to provide them with insurance.
In one capacity, in the private sector, if you sign up for insurance, it's illegal. But in the public capacity, we're going to force other people to pay for it. And that's a good system?
No, I don't understand your question here, because the core of this is this. The core of it is, are we going to turn people away from the hospitals when they are injured, regardless of immigration status? That's the bottom line of this conversation.
Because,
and so the question is, yes, you want to. You would turn them away. 100%. You would not treat them.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jesus is super proud of you.
Well, I'm not.
Super proud of you for that one.
Bill, I don't think it's right to tax hardworking Americans to pay for the health care of people who shouldn't be in this country illegally.
I will fix this for you. I don't think we should provide care to someone in need. There, fixed it for you.
No, because I brought up the fact that if you want to donate, you perfectly can. And there's no problem with that. I mean, if you want to donate to an entity that's going to provide medical care for people that are here illegally, that's a completely separate issue. Then forcing hardworking Americans, Coloradans listening to this show, going to work right now, taking money out of their pockets with the problems they're facing and giving it to provide the health care for people who shouldn't be in this country in the first place. So they broke the law, and now I'm going to take the money from somebody who's following the rules to pay for that other person's health care. That's not fair.
Again, when we talk about this being at the core a Judeo-Christian nation, big questions about the idea that you are going to refuse medical care to someone that is in need. The idea of the Good Samaritan story and a whole bunch of other stuff just evaporates. And the moral authority evaporates based on talking about this being a Judeo-Christian nation.
You are conflating taxes with charity. You can't see a world where those two exist separately. In order for us to care, we have to pay high taxes. That's the way Democrats look at this world. We provide these services by taking it from other people.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that, the way that you've talked about it that way. You have to understand the government is us. It is us using our money for us. The government isn't the government isn't a bunch of aliens that showed up here and, as you like to say, at the point of a gun, take the money from you.
That's exactly what taxes are.
No, it's not. No, not at all, because the taxes
then don't pay your taxes.
There are American citizens that are in the government. All of us have created a system where we have decided to tax ourselves. Us. It's not some sort of other individual or other group that's outside of America. It is Americans setting up a system that taxes Americans. It's not some sort of
taxation without representation, right?
Who was in charge then? Who was it?
No,
was the Americans in charge?
That's what you're saying. That we have representation, so our taxes come from representation.
Yes.
Right? But in my mind, do you think it's right?
Should die.
Do you think it's right to have the American taxpayer pay for the health care services of somebody who shouldn't be in this country in the first place?
Yes. 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 And I would do it through the governmental programs because it's more expensive if we do it the other way. We can talk about removing them, but if they're here and they're injured, yes, I would provide medical care for them because I don't want to pay.
How much have you donated?
I don't
How
want
much have
to
you
pay.
donated to the health care of illegal immigrants?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I've donated to some charities to take care of it, but I don't have the number off the top of my head, nor do I think...
You're willing to take other people's money to pay for it?
No, I'm willing as far as a society. There are lots of things in our society that money goes to that not all of us agree. We don't get a list like a menu as far as our taxes, but I'm talking about the morals and the ethics behind it. And the morals and the ethics, these people are in the country and they need health care. And we can talk about removing them for whatever reason, and that's fair. However, if they're here, I am going to try to efficiently provide health care for them.
No,
because
you're taking other people's money to do that.
They also, if they are working, they also are contributing to the society. And that would be the issue. So we can talk, they're criminals and everything else. That's a different issue. But the people that are there at the job site, and we've seen ICE arrest people at the job site, they also are contributing to the tax base. Not in the exact same way that citizens are all the time, but sometimes in more ways than citizens are. Because sometimes those guys that are down at the job site and the construction are spending more in their taxes than the guys that are in the CEO corner office that can avoid taxes because they can pay the lawyers for all the loopholes. Sometimes they end up functionally paying more taxes than what the other guys do. Happens. That's okay. They're paying more on their income than the person that has the ability to take out a loan, avoid their income, not draw a salary, and do it based on a loan, and then also be able to discount the interest they paid on them paying themselves their own salary and getting money back. There are loopholes. So that's it. Sometimes it happens.
In my proposal, I'm not preventing anybody from giving money to provide the health care for other people. I'm not banning that. I'm not saying that you're forced to, and you're going to get in trouble via law if you provide care for somebody. I just don't think it's right to take the money that belongs to an American citizen that was earned by that American citizen and force them to pay for the health care of somebody that shouldn't be in this country to begin with. All right. Phone lines lighting up. We'll get to you all next. Plus, we got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Phone lines are hot this morning as we're talking big, beautiful bill, and it's going to merge into other conversations. USAID being shut down, Medicaid cuts, K through 12 cuts coming to Colorado. Do you support all these cuts? Or is it unchristian to turn somebody away who just wants an education or Medicare or Medicaid?
Or just has a broken
leg. Or
leg.
USAID. Now it's unchristian to not pay for health insurance in other countries, too. All right, we'll continue this. Stay around. We're going to take a little moment to have some levity with You Choose the News.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to make questionable decisions. It's America's favorite fake radio news game show. It's You Choose the News. I've spent moments this morning scouring our interwebs for really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why would we possibly do this? Why would we waste valuable KNUS airtime, especially when you have 2 phone calls waiting there? Yeah, I see you, Melissa. I see you, Ron. Hang on here. We got to be a little foolish for a while. And we do this because nobody in charge is up at this hour. So we're going to take full advantage of being left unsupervised, and as always, we bring Blake Olson in on the fun. He joins us from the news department. Jeff Hunt is in the studio. Gentlemen, here are your headline choices this morning. Headline number 1, this seems appropriate. There is no God. Headline number 2, just trying to help. Headline number 3, bystander nailed it. And headline number 4, relive your childhood. Mr. Hunt,
let's start with relive your childhood, please.
Yes, now you can relive your childhood. Yes, the giant rat who likes pizza. It's not just for kids anymore. Chuck E. Cheese is opening an adult arcade called Chuck's Arcade. Sponsored by Sean Diddy. No, I'm just kidding about that one. Now, the company describes this as a modern-day love letter to the games that you loved growing up and made Chuck E. Cheese great. Similar to the kiddie version, Chuck's Arcade is going to have a mix of those nostalgic arcade games. Drop your quarters right now if you want the next round of Donkey Kong, Mortal Kombat. They'll also have the newer titles such as Halo and Connect 4 Hoops. Plus, each arcade is overseen, in air quotes, by one of the chain's iconic animatronic characters, that giant rat Chuck E. Cheese, or maybe Munch's make-believe band himself. So, 10 are open so far, malls across the United States. Yes, the pizza still sucks, but they do have old school merch available for purchase, and some of them even have a selection of beer and wine. I always thought that was the problem with Chuck E. Cheese in the first place. You couldn't get drunk there. Now, they obviously are trying to make a rival at Dave & Buster's because Dave & Buster's is seeing about a 10% decline quarter over quarter in people visiting. So Chuck E.'s trying to get in on the action, just like Chuck E. Cheese got in on the action on Showbiz Pizza Place.
I was going to say, you guys remember Showbiz Pizza?
Showbiz was first. Chuck E. Cheese was second.
It was, and it was way better.
I had my birthday party at Showbiz.
I bet you did.
Showbiz
hell yeah.
awesome.
Showbiz was incredible.
Those
Chuck E.
animatronics were so bad, they were awesome.
Yes, I know. It was not
Wasn't better than Shakey's Pizza, though.
Oh, Shakey's was the best. and this day and age, you got to love going to a restaurant where the guy that owns is Shakey's. You're like, I got some questions. All right. Okay, Blake Olson, your choice, sir. There is no God, just trying to help, or bystander nails it.
Billy, I'm going to go with bystander nails it.
Bystander nails it. Wait till we hear to the quote of this bystander after they saw what happened. We're traveling to Boston for this story. Leading police on a chase through downtown Boston on Tuesday. Police attempted to pull a driver over behind the wheel of a black Honda Passport in the theater district, but then she took off. While attempting to open the car door, she was refusing to get out of the car. The officer reaches inside, grabs the inside latch. She hits the accelerator, launching forward, dragging Officer Barry approximately 20 feet. He let go of the inside latch. At the time, the suspect fled down Tremont Street. Another on-duty member of the police working a paid detail just a few blocks away saw the commotion. The car is coming towards him. At that point, it slows down, and he tries to grab a hold of it. The car strikes him and keeps going. Now, it keeps going on, and eventually the car comes to rest at Herald Street after striking a traffic pole. Officers finally able to locate the vehicle on Albany Street after it sustained significant front-end damage. Airbags deployed, and the front 2 wheels totally bare. She had taken the tires off of it as well. Now, the best was the witness statement that was involved that they gave to the police and public TV. It said, quote, "She was driving with damn near disregard for everything. She hit everything but the lottery." Best quote ever.
Damn near and hit everything but the lottery.
Hit everything but the lottery. Yeah. That is fantastic.
That is what a quote.
Yes, best quote ever. All righty. Mr. Hunt, final choice this morning, sir. There is no God or just trying to help.
There is no God.
There is no God. It couldn't have happened to a nicer man. Recently, James Farthing collects the $167 million Kentucky lottery jackpot. He hit the Powerball. But it's not the first time he's been known to people. He has an extensively long rap history. Yes, God has blessed a repeated felon, a man who's gotten in trouble both while incarcerated and outside of prison over and over and over again. Yes, it's like a South Park episode. He has spent more than the last 30 years in custody in 25 different correctional institutions.
Wow.
And he's now a multimillionaire. Congratulations. There is no God.
Wow. We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is KNUS.